Welcome now to, what are we on, week 5, I think. Okay, so I'm going to start with a little bit of interactivity, if I may. So we're looking this week at truth again, different types of truth. If that doesn't sound heretical now, for the Enlightenment view, different types of truth is heretical, right? There's one truth and that's it. And there are ways that people try and attack this one truth. You know, they might say that's true for you, but it's not for me. It's nice. I'm glad you believe in God. That's your opinion, and I have my opinion, and we can go our happy ways. And people, I don't know if you've ever come across these phrases, but they can be really annoying because you're trying to have a serious, meaningful, rigorous debate, and someone says, "Well, that's true for you, but not for me," and then we give up and go home because there's nothing more to be said. It's like we each have our own truths and fine, right? So people rail against this because that is the end of all meaningful debate, and we're just sunk. And as soon as you accept that we each have our own truths and something can be true for you but not for me, then we go, there's nothing more that we can talk about. And so there are some perspectives where we just ban those things because then that ends debate and we can't be sensible about this. Alternatively, other people say, no, of course we allow these things, and then everything's on the table. I can believe in what I want, you can believe in what you want, and we can be happy. So I'm going to ask for a volunteer. Turn on your video and unmute yourself and wave at me.
Hello.
Yash, great to have you with us. Okay, so Yash, I have a question for you. What's your name?
Yash Vardhan Srivastava, if that's what you want.
Okay, well, Yash, that's true for you, but not for me.
That's not right. That's my legal name, so it's true.
Right, it's true. It's when you say I'm called Yash, that's true. But obviously, when I say I'm called Yash, that's not true.
Yes, because that's not your name.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the statement I'm called Yash is true for you, but not for me.
Yes, I agree with that. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, question 2, supplementary. Yash, what's your name?
Yash.
That's just your opinion.
I mean, it's the name that my parents have given me, so I guess it's their opinion, really.
Oh. One might, if one were pushing, go further and say it's the name on your birth certificate and it's the name on your ID card, and so it's more than just someone's opinion. It's a pretty hard fact. Okay, cool. So here we have, thank you, Ash. So here we have an example of where first of all we notice that the complaint that's true for you but not for me, and that's just your opinion, are not the same. Because when I say to Yash, my name is Yash, is true for you but not for me, he says, of course. And when I say it's just your opinion, he says, of course not. Okay, so let's go for, I need another volunteer. Turn your camera on and wave at me. Okay, we have Lam Yupong. So I have a question for you. This lecture is going to be deathly dull. Would you say that's true?
No, because it is undetermined.
Go on, nice and loud. Your mic isn't picking you up. Try again. Would you say it's true that this lecture is going to be dull?
Because we cannot forecast future and we cannot say it.
Right, but do you expect it to be dull? I'm not going to hold you to this. I'm not going to give you a grade based on your response. I mean, do you expect this lecture to be boring?
I do not give expectation to lectures.
Okay, so you have no expectation for this lecture. Well, that's your opinion.
Yes.
Right, okay, so with Yash, when he said, my name is Yash, and I said, that's your opinion, he said, no, it's not my opinion. Whereas when you say, I have no expectation of this lecture, and I say, that's your opinion, well, you agree, this is your opinion. Okay, so now let's go for, you have no expectation for this lecture, but that's true for you, but not for me. Because I do have an expectation for this lecture. I expect it to be exciting and engaging because I know what's coming. I've seen the slides and I expect it to be awesome. Okay, so thank you very much. So there we can see that the statement, I expect this lecture to be dull, is different from my name is Yash, because the expectation for the lecture to be dull is an opinion, and unlike my name is Yash, which is more than an opinion, but they share the property of being true for one person but not for another. Okay, I'm just going to go through, for the sake of time, I'm going to go through 2 more examples. Okay, now let's say something like, actually, Steve, turn your mic on, because you're here.
Yes, hello.
Okay, Steve, this lecture is timetabled to last 110 minutes. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, accurate, correct.
No, Steve, that's just your opinion.
Yeah, as you said, it is like timetable that I mean, in terms of that school regulations and that kind of stuff, it technically.
Oh, okay, regulations. Okay, so here we go. So it being timetabled for 110 minutes is more than Steve's opinion. It's actually a documented, verifiable fact. You can go to the Moodle and it says it is timetabled for 110 minutes. Okay, now Steve, the fact that this lecture is going to last 110 minutes is true for you, but not for me.
Maybe. You may overrun, of course.
Right. Okay. So now we see this is different again. It's not going to be true for me, but not for Steve, because if I talk for more than 110 minutes, he's going to be sitting on this Zoom call for more than 110 minutes. Right. So it's whether it's true or false, it's true for both of us or false for both of us. So here we can see that these truths go in various shapes. Now I'm just going to check the final combination, which is to say, Steve, do you think this lecture is going to overrun?
Well, based on experience last lecture, it seems to be likely the case.
Okay, now that's your opinion. Okay, so the difference here between it's timetabled to last 110 minutes, that's not Steve's opinion, but if it's true for him, it's true for me. On the other hand, I think it's going to overrun, that is Steve's opinion. And nonetheless, if it does overrun, it's going to overrun for both of us. So with that fun game in hand, I'm going to now try, we can do this, to share a screen. Let's go. Sorry. Share screen. True for you, but not for me. Share. There you go, and then we'll go presentation. So hopefully you can all now see a presentation. Good. And so we can see that we have these 4 things. So this is interesting. Is true for one person, but not for someone else, and it's their opinion. My name is Yash is true for one person, but not someone else, but it's not their opinion. So here we can see that while some people would object to the statement that's true for you, but not for me, or they might object to the statement that's just your opinion, we can actually deal with these, and we can agree that there are some statements for which they hold, and they're not crazy things to say. Oh, okay. So now let's look back at what we had with the previous discussion. So this is a. Can I minimize that? No. Oh, okay. So this is something that we've come to know and love. And if we look at this on the universal side of things, we have a universal thing. The statement "that's true but not for me" undermines the notion of universality. If it's true for one person but not another, it's not true for all people. So this is the claim universal or relative? Is it relative to the person who says it or the time they say it? Question we're asking, is it always true? On the other hand, when someone says that's your opinion, this is undermining the notion of objectivity. We're saying, can it be shown to be true? If you can hold up your birth certificate and say, it's not just my opinion, look, I have a form, then it can be shown to be true, so it's objective, so it's not just your opinion. Okay, now, that looks nice and neat. We've got then universal and relative, and we've got objective and subjective. But while this is neat, we then say, it's not helpful. So if we say a universal statement is true if and only if it's always true for all people at all times in all places, right? But that's not helpful. Consider a statement like the Earth orbits the Sun. Now, if I can work out how to get a view of everyone back, this is where have you all gone? My Zoom screen has done something very strange. Sorry. This is the problem of trying to do a live lecture by Zoom. Give me this. Okay, so something like the Earth orbits the Sun. Okay, well, this is true for all people at all times in all places, right? It's not, you know, I don't say, well, my Earth is orbiting the Sun, but David's Earth is not orbiting the Sun, right? It's true for both of us. It's true for all of us. All right, it's true for people in Hong Kong. It's true for people in the Middle East 3,000 years ago. It's true for colonists of Mars. They might not live on Earth. They might live 1,000 years in the future, but it's still true that the Earth, on which they do not live, is orbiting the Sun. So we say, okay, this is true for all times, for all people in all places. Except it's not. If we say, okay, this is where we are now. This is our Earth orbiting the Sun, and let's put this on a timeline. We say this is the Big Bang. So we say, well, the Earth turned up about 4.5 billion years ago, which means that for any time more than 4.5 billion years ago, it wasn't true that the Earth orbited the Sun because the Sun just didn't exist and the Earth didn't exist. So for 2/3 of the universe's history so far, this statement hasn't been true. And if we look the other way, in another 5 billion years or so, the Sun is going to turn into a red giant. It's going to engulf the Earth. Then it will turn supernova and scatter the Earth across the cosmos. And at that point, the Earth is not going to be orbiting the Sun. So in all of the universe's history, there's only about a 10 billion year window when the Earth orbits the Sun. So if we zoom out again, this is the Big Bang. This is the end of the universe. I mean, we can debate exactly how it's going to end, but let's say we've got about 200 billion years to play with. This is the period of time in which the Earth orbits the Sun. So for most of cosmic history, this is not true. So it's not always true. It's not a universal statement. And yet, if I say to you, well, it's a relative statement, it kind of depends on who's making it and when, you go, yeah, but everyone that you're ever going to talk to is making the statement at a time when it is. So it's as near universal for all practical purposes as we care about. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to say, come up with a more helpful notion of universality. Even if the Earth orbits the Sun is not universal, we say it can be treated as though it were universal, true for all, provided it's true for all times and people and places that I care about at the moment. Right? If I'm not thinking about the ultimate heat death of the universe, I can ignore that. So the problem there is, if two different people care about different times, then they might disagree on whether something's universal or not. But here we go. It's a more useful definition. Okay, the same turns up with objective. So by our objective definition, we say a statement is objective, it can be shown to be true. Except we discovered in the other lecture that Quine says you can't show statements to be true. You can't demonstrate them true because there's a million ways or an infinite number of ways you can be wrong, which means that no statement in this purest sense is objective if objective means you can show it to be true. So what we'll do is we'll fudge it again. We're going to come up with a more helpful definition. And we're going to say a statement can be treated as objective, provided it can be shown to be true to the collective satisfaction of the people I care about at the moment. And if I'm working within a community of people, all of whom treat this to be true and who argued about it and discussed it back and forth and say, right, to the satisfaction of everyone who was living 200 years ago, Newtonian mechanics was true. So it's objectively true because it's shown to their satisfaction. If someone says, yes, but I don't believe that because there's this and this and that problem, it's not done to their satisfaction. So they say, I have reason to doubt this. So what we've just done is we've changed, or we've more carefully considered definitions of, sorry, let me back up. So we've more carefully considered definitions of what is universal, and we've more carefully considered definitions of what is objective. Because the old definition that we had was neat, but not helpful. And the old definition of objectivity that we had was neat, but not helpful. And as we've discussed in previous lectures, when neatness bumps against pragmatic helpfulness, we like to go for things that are helpful. So how does this work out in science? Does science go for objective and subjective truths? Does science go for universal and relative truths? And so a universal statement, which is true or false for all times and in all places that I care about, so equals mc squared, it's a universal statement. Maybe it didn't hold before the Big Bang, but I don't care about times before the Big Bang. Maybe it doesn't hold in the bottom of a black hole, but I don't care about that either. So for all times that I care about, it holds, it's universal. And science can deal with relative statements as well. So my name is Yash might not be a particularly scientific thing to be thinking of. You don't have the my name is Yash theory within science. But science does engage with relative statements. So, for example, a typhoon is coming. That is true several times a year for people that live in Hong Kong. And it's never true for people that live in England. It's true for people that live in Hong Kong the day before a typhoon is coming, and it's not true for people that live in Hong Kong the day after a typhoon has gone past. So it depends on the context. How about objective statements? So objective statements, and there are going to be various ways that we phrase exactly what we mean by objectivity. We're going to wrestle with it a bit further in the next bit of the lecture. But for the second, I'm going to say that there has been a communal, public, critical process which leads to collective agreement on a statement. And there are statements where science has done that, like, for example, F equals ma. You have scientists that talk to each other and they agree, yes, this is what we're going with. But there are other statements that occur within science which can be viewed as being scientific, for which this hasn't happened. Even with this weakened notion of objectivity, from like pure hard objectivity that's not useful to a useful notion of objectivity, science also engages with things which are subjective. So, for example, the many worlds theory in quantum mechanics helps us to understand atoms. Now, there has not been a collective process going on within science whereby people agree on this. Some people do think that's true, and some people think it's very much not true. I am of the opinion that this is deeply untrue, and that the many worlds hypothesis should be thrown out as fast as possible. But there are people who do science and who do good science, who take within their conception of science and their framework for doing science this to be true, and they work out their theories based on that notion. So it occurs within science. It's validly a legitimate part of science, even though there has not been agreement on it. And we don't even know what kind of conversations we would have that will get agreement on it. So science deals with objective and subjective. It deals with universal and relative statements. There are things in science where you can say, that's true for you, but not for me. And there are things in science where you cannot reasonably say that's true for you, but not for me, like E equals mc squared. There are things in science where you can say that is your opinion, like the many world hypothesis helps you to understand things, but it's not my opinion. And there are things in science where you cannot say that is just your opinion. F equals ma. It's more than, we've managed to elevate this to more than simply an opinion. So we started this lecture with saying, okay, people get worried by these ideas of true for you but not for me, or that's just your opinion. Because on the one hand, people say once we introduce these, anything goes. Well, we can introduce them, and I would argue we should introduce them. But it's not the case that once we introduce them, anything goes. We just need to be aware of how to deal with them. So, on that note, I'm going to stop sharing my screen.